You're watching ABC7 News at 7.
There's not a huge push to expand any type of gambling, so I think this may meet some resistance.
Prohibiting sports gambling has been ruled unconstitutional, allowing states to decide for themselves. So what are the odds Florida lawmakers roll the dice on a new source of revenue? Good evening, everyone. I'm Adam Cellini, and welcome to ABC7 at 7. Alan Cohn will be at the Trapezoid later on with more on sports gambling. But first, our top 7 stories at 7. We begin tonight with the Longboat Key Police Chief, who is launching an internal investigation into an officer who reportedly shared photos of dead bodies. 48-year-old Jeffrey Houchins has been a Longboat Key police officer for over 2 years, but he was denied by Lakeland police after turning to a background investigator and asking, quote, "Want to see some dead guys." Houchins then reportedly proceeded to show the investigator a gallery of photos from crime scenes where he worked as an officer in Indiana. Lakeland police say they're not sure the policy in Indiana, but in addition to more minor incidents, this was enough to pass on the candidate.
I don't know the size of their agency or their policies, but with the standards that we have and being CALEA certified, that's something we do not want. We did not want to take a chance with that candidate. We just thought it was a little strange, like I think most people probably would.
The Sarasota County Sheriff's Office also passed on Houchins. In a statement, the agency said he had applied but was not selected due to several concerns that arose during his background investigation. The Florida State Attorney's Office has announced indictments in 2 recent Suncoast murders. Dakota Gibson has been indicted for the Easter morning murder of Veronica Polite on April 1st. A second indictment was announced for Barack Posas, who is accused of murdering 60-year-old Joanne Emio on April 13th. Her body was found in the carport of her Bradenton mobile home. Posas was found at a nearby bar with blood on his hands and clothes. Lakewood Ranch continues its expansion. Today, the Manatee County Commission approving yet another residential suburb. Home building firm D.R. Horton will construct that suburb of over 600 single-family homes on what is currently pastures along Eline Road. That is a little more than 1 mile north of State Road 70 and a little over 2 miles south of State Road 64. Almost 2 years after that deadly nightclub massacre in Orlando, some of the surviving victims are filing a lawsuit in federal court. They say the city and police did not do enough to try and stop the shooter at the Pulse nightclub. Gunman Omar Mateen killed 49 people and injured 53 more people. More than 35 victims have signed onto this lawsuit. Proponents of drilling for oil and natural gas are not giving up on tapping areas closer to Florida's shoreline. The American Petroleum Institute is announcing a multi-state Explore Offshore coalition. The coalition supports the Trump administration's plan to open parts of the Atlantic Ocean and eastern Gulf of Mexico to oil and gas drilling. The coalition's Florida team is focused on the eastern Gulf waters.
With 93% off limits, that we're restricting the potential for some very, very good potentially areas that might have oil and gas so that we can secure our energy future.
Many Florida leaders, including Governor Rick Scott and U.S. Senator Bill Nelson, have denounced the possibility of opening to drilling nearly all of the nation's outer continental shelf. A rare sighting off the coast of Anna Maria Island. Fishermen spotting 5 whale sharks about 40 miles off the coast of Anna Maria Island. Whale sharks are the world's largest fish, and while they have been spotted in the Gulf before, scientists here at Mote Marine say their visits to waters around here are few and far between. According to scientist Dr. Bob Huter, the creatures are vulnerable, said to even be endangered in some areas.
With 93% off limits, that we're restricting the potential for some very, very good potentially areas that might have oil and gas so that we can secure our energy future.
Both scientists want to put tracking devices on the sharks so that they can learn more about their whereabouts. And now let's take it over to ABC7 Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan, a whale shark eyewitness, with our first alert weather forecast tonight. Bob?
Yeah, spectacular. About 10 miles offshore many years ago. I'd say about 8 years ago or so, we saw about a 30-footer out there. They're amazing to see. Gentle creatures. They live on plankton. And again, nothing going on as far as that goes right now. And no sightings for us here along the immediate coast at this hour. Look at this little twist here in the atmosphere. You can see it kind of rotating a counterclockwise swirl. That's the base of the trough of low pressure in the eastern portion of the Gulf of Mexico. Now, it's persistent. It's been there for the past several days now. And this is going to continue to generate some showers out there in the Gulf, and some of those will work their way toward our coast and be on our doorstep, I think, by sunrise tomorrow. Currently, though, nothing like that going on. It looks good. We have a few clouds. It's 83. Feels like temperature not bad, 88. And the pressure continues to rise. That's another good sign as we head toward the weekend. High pressure building in means a decent weekend ahead. And you can see that big area of showers and storms out there. Lots of lightning going on. That's about 70 miles west of the Suncoast, so no danger of that having a problem with us. We have some rain in the inland counties. Obviously, with this west wind, everything kind of forces itself toward the east coast, and some of those storms have been producing some locally heavy rainfall, but notice nothing going on here right now. But later on after midnight, we may see a few showers as a result of this system out here in the Gulf working its way slowly in our direction. And some of the forecast models have a hard time with systems out there in the Gulf because there's not a lot of data. That's a data void region, really. And so, again, this particular model indicating some showers around, again, to start the morning off right along the coast there. But we could see some inland storms again tomorrow afternoon. The weekend looking much better. We'll have the details on that and a tropical system coming up in a few minutes. Alan?
For decades, betting on sports has been illegal in all but a few states, but now the U.S. Supreme Court has made it available for everyone. So, which states will jump on the new opportunity, and how long before Florida follows suit? ABC7's Adam Cellini tells us what some gambling experts and lawmakers have to say. Adam.
Yeah, Alan, Delaware and New Jersey have already authorized sports betting, hoping to increase their state revenue, but as some say, also possibly putting some of their own residents at risk.
I mean, you can do any sports.
Jaquan Cathy is looking forward to a busy and hopefully lucrative fall.
This upcoming football season, I plan on betting $500 to $1,000 a week. Gamble it.
Gambling he'll do right from his laptop, where he also writes his own sports blog.
Like, you can make money off of your passion. Like, there's no better thing in life, I think, than making money off of what you love.
But no one in Florida is making money off Cathy. His bets are made online through a casino in Las Vegas, Nevada, where betting on sports is legal.
It's essentially a handshake deal. Like, you have to trust that casino to give you the money.
Feel a bit shady? Cathy feels it too, especially when his deposits are processed through international banks and his winnings come back 1, sometimes even 4 weeks later as foreign checks. All necessary to navigate the laws, though it also discourages Cathy from cashing out.
If it was as instant, as fast as they took it out of my account and put it that as fast, yes, definitely that would change for me.
Perhaps it could be if Florida decides to legalize sports betting. Since 1992, federal law has prohibited most states outside of Nevada from allowing sports betting, but the U.S. Supreme Court recently ruled that law unconstitutional, meaning states can authorize sports gambling. Local state representative Joe Gruters would support such a move, unlike maybe the majority of his colleagues.
There's not a huge push to expand any type of gambling.
Gruters sits on the House's Tourism and Gaming Subcommittee.
Any type of expansion is going to be, my guess is there's going to be some resistance because in the state of Florida, everything is all intertied to this seminal compact that we have, which if you violate it, then all of a sudden you lose potentially $250 million a year or more.
Current state law allows pari-mutuel facilities like the Sarasota Kennel Club to run certain types of gaming like dog racing and poker. But casino games like roulette and blackjack, where players bet against the bank or house, are exclusive to tribal facilities like Tampa's Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. And lawmakers like Gruters may have no future say in laws if voters pass Constitutional Amendment 3 in November.
The purpose and the goal of this amendment is to prevent the legislature from essentially creating any new deals, really preventing the expansion of gambling.
Expanding gaming is something Floridians should be careful about, warned Suncoast Congressman Vern Buchanan.
There's a lot of people who get addicted on betting, which can affect communities and families.
Arnie Wexler wrote a book, All Bets Are Off, about his struggle with gambling addiction, a problem he calls invisible, unlike drugs and alcohol, but as one psychologist told him, more damaging.
He said that the suicide rate is 20 times higher with compulsive gambling than it is with drugs and alcohol.
And he does worry that SCOTUS ruling will increase the number of victims in states that embrace sports betting.
They better have a solid program on helping compulsive gamblers, because you're going to have a volcano and an explosion of people looking for help.
Still, it could help people like Jaquan gamble safely and boost our state income.
Whatever they need money to do it. And that's just a revenue income that they do not have now.
Last year, sports gambling revenue was a record $248 million in Nevada because, like they say, the house always wins. And Alan, we reached out to the Seminole Tribe of Florida to get their thoughts on introducing sports betting to the state. And they told us, although the Seminole Tribe always takes a serious look at potential business opportunities, the legal and legislative hurdles are such that sports betting in Florida is not currently being considered by the tribe.
Adam, thank you. Coming up, an online sports betting expert. What impact will it have on the Tampa Bay sports scene and the politics of sports gambling when we return to the Trapezoid?
Thanks to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, what was once impossible is happening today for thousands of patients with blood cancer.
I live.
I live. I live. I live.
I live.
She lives.
Because of the research done by the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society in the battle against blood cancer.
If you had a chance to support the research that is saving lives, what would you do?
My credit score was not that great.
I didn't understand what went into my credit score.
It was overwhelming.
Do you want to attain better credit health but don't know where to start? Credit Sesame can help by providing you a free credit score.
I love the app. It's so easy to use. It's like having your own financial coach.
Credit Sesame broke my credit score down into things that I understood, and it made me think, I can do this.
And the awesome thing about Credit Sesame, it's free.
It's 100% free.
You don't need to go it alone. Get started today at creditsesame.com.
The following message is brought to you by Mesobook.com.
People who have been diagnosed with mesothelioma have many questions. How did I get this disease? What are my treatment options? How will this affect my loved ones? You need answers, which is why we offer a free book written by medical professionals who have treated mesothelioma.
Call toll-free at 1-800-777-1366 or go to Mesobook.com.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
Florida Studio Theater presents Always Patsy Cline, now held over due to popular demand. A tuneful and memorable tribute, Patsy Cline's rise to legendary stardom is told through the eyes of her biggest fan. Featuring such hit songs as Walkin' After Midnight, I Fall to Pieces, Crazy, and many more you know and love. Critics are calling Always Patsy Cline warm and genuine and engaging. Audiences calling it outstanding. Always Patsy Cline is now playing. Tickets can be purchased by calling 941-366-9000 or by visiting floridastudiotheater.org.
Welcome back. A new day is coming for sports fans and gamblers. The question is, if you live in Florida, are you invited to the party? The U.S. Supreme Court just struck down a federal law banning sports betting. It is now up to each state to write its own rules. Several states like New Jersey, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, and Mississippi are poised to do just that, but currently Florida law prohibits sports gambling. With the Supreme Court decision, pressure the legislature to legalize sports betting, and would that be a good thing? Joining us for more, Jaquan Cathy of the DAPA Sports Desk, Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and joining us by Skype from Tampa is Tyler Bradley of Sports Talk Florida. Welcome to all of you. Frank, what is the current status of Florida law in terms of sports gambling, given the fact that the federal law has just been overturned?
So because the federal law was in place, it was banned in Florida, just like most of the rest of the places in the country outside of Las Vegas. Now that the federal ban has been lifted, it's a void. It has to be authorized by the legislature, but in the state of Florida, the rules regarding different forms of gambling, some of them are within the Constitution and some of them are within statute. So at the moment, it's not been authorized, but the politics will kick in.
And there's also a ballot initiative that will be on the ballot in November, Amendment 3.
Amendment 3 would essentially block any expansion of gambling in the state unless a subsequent citizens initiative were put on the ballot behind this ballot amendment to reopen the door to that. So this could actually have a big impact on, I think, this.
And Jaquan, the reality is, and you're going to demonstrate this a little bit later, that sports betting really already takes place in Florida and in every other state, correct?
Most definitely. It was illegal, but there is a loophole that it's like a handshake deal almost, where the money goes through outside of the United States. It can go through Turkey, China, the UK, Canada, just anywhere that's not the United States.
So the servers are in offices somewhere in those countries that you describe, and you send your money to those countries, and you get checks back from them?
Yeah, you get checks back due to the servers. Where the servers are, the checks could take 2, 3, sometimes 4 weeks, but you do get it back.
Tyler, what kind of market is there for sports gambling, not only in the United States, but here in Florida?
Here in Florida, I believe that the market would be absolutely huge. It's going to change the way gambling altogether is. They're talking about in-stadium experiences where you could go to a Tampa Bay Rays game per se, and the count could be 3-2, and you can bet whether the next pitch is going to be a strike, a hit, a walk, whatever you think it could be. And of course, as long as there's sports fans and gambling's involved, it's going to be a big, big sell.
And would that include professional sports teams as well as college?
I believe so, especially down here in the South. We see how big college football is. I believe that the gambling in college football is going to be just as big as it would in any professional sport here in the state of Florida.
And Frank, I would imagine that raises a lot of concerns from people who are concerned about gambling to begin with, gambling when it comes to college sports and student athletes.
Yeah, there's lots to talk about. It's an enormous amount of potential revenue. That's one set of issues. There are certainly addiction concerns, but I do think a lot of people that want to gamble already do. We just don't get a cut of that revenue. But having a variety of in-state, sometimes in-facility wagers on specific sporting events, is that going to harm the integrity of these events, of these games?
And Jaquan, do you have any kind of idea of how many people in our community are gambling online right now, as we've discussed?
Not really how many people, but about $150 billion exchange hands between bettors and bookies each year.
And right now, can you gamble not only on professional sports but also college sports?
Yes, I can. I placed a bet on the national championship game, and I won that bet, and that is a tricky situation, especially with the college students coming for most college students come from their background. Everybody comes from a great background, so that could be extremely tricky.
Okay, we have to take a quick break, and we'll have much more on sports gambling right after we check the first alert weather, so stay with us.
Outdoor living is one of the greatest perks about living in Florida. So whether this is your style, or this, or maybe this, contact Superior Pools. They've been building pools from Sarasota to Naples since 2001, and they would love to build yours.
Many websites selling medication may look professional and legitimate, but the vast majority of sites selling prescription drugs are doing so illegally. Criminals use websites to sell counterfeit medications that may contain life-threatening toxins. Dot Pharmacy is a website verification program that helps you identify safe and trustworthy online pharmacies. Purchasing medicine online can be safe and easy. Just look for pharmacy to the right of the dot in website addresses.
I'll be right back.
Supan, part of the U.S. Paralympic rugby team. In my game, movement is everything. I get frustrated when my move is blocked, especially when that guy has no right to be there, even just for a minute. I love a challenge, but I don't like to play this game every day.
A message from the United Spinal Association.
I'll be right back.
Hi! You think you're probably sober?
Yeah.
But you're thinking about taking the back roads home, just in case. If you're probably sober, then why would you do that? Good choice.
Probably okay isn't okay. If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
That's a full glass of wine. I'll be chatting you later.
When my youngest, Addie, was 2.5, she was diagnosed with leukemia. When we first heard that diagnosis, you feel extremely alone. Walking in that Light the Night light with 6,000 people carrying lights, white for survivors, red for supporters, gold in memory of those who have passed. It's the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society's hope that every year there are fewer gold lanterns. Your lantern will make a difference.
Start a team, join a team.
Help us light the night.
Outdoor living is one of the greatest perks about living in Florida. So whether this is your style, or this, or maybe this, contact Superior Pools. They've been building pools from Sarasota to Naples since 2001, and they would love to build yours.
Now your ABC7 First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
This Casey Key webcam on the beaches there. You can see beautiful weather today. Nice sunny skies and waves coming in just a little bit. Seas running less than 2 feet for the most part. Not much rainfall near the coast. We had a heavy storm inland in Hardy County and also into Highlands County, but not much going on near the coast right now. But that will change tomorrow. We'll see a chance for some showers, stray shower possible in the early morning hours on Friday and even along the coast up until about 3. And then most of the action after that should be again inland due to a west to southwest wind component. We have a persistent area of low pressure in the Gulf of Mexico. You can see that really exploding today with some heavier storms out there. Lots of lightning taking place as well. All this drifting slowly to the south and east, but there's a little bit of a push more to the east lately. You can see that line of intense storms. As I said earlier, a lot of times these models have a hard time with systems out there in the Gulf. And with this one, I think it has already, and they're going to hold on. They'll not be as strong as they are right now, but they will move toward the coast after midnight tonight, and more so in place and in line, I think, around sunrise. Some heavier storms I mentioned into Hardy County, now heading into Sebring. Tremendous downpours there, rainfall rates up to 1.5 inches an hour. And just near Wauchula down to Zolfo Springs, you can see that rough weather, even some positive lightning strikes there in the blue around State Road 66. Now, the Futurecast, this is one model that is showing some heavier storms moving in again during the early morning hours and then even still lingering out there due to that persistent low pressure in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. We could see another round into the early afternoon, and then most of the focus will be inland later on in the day. High pressure to the south continues to slowly inch northward, and with that in mind, this will kind of weaken this area of low pressure. And we'll start to see a return to more drier conditions, I think. Oh, we had a nice dry day today along the coast. I think it'll be that way on Saturday and Sunday. We'll start to get back into that afternoon and evening pattern, too, with the sea breeze developing on each of those days. Well, here we go. In the tropics, we're watching this area in particular in the Western Caribbean, where water temperatures are fairly warm, mid-80s there. The GFS, or the American model, continues to spin something up. As it did with Alberto, it was the first one to grab hold of that. The Canadian model also is suggesting a low-pressure trough, low-pressure center coming off the Caribbean next week. But the European isn't quite there yet, so we'll watch and see how that goes. This is the latest GFS forecast. Just came in within the last hour or so. And one thing to note, it has shifted a little bit further off to the west. It'll go back and forth over the upcoming week. But one thing to note, it has been rather consistent in developing a center of low pressure right there in the Gulf of Mexico and working its way northward into either Louisiana all the way over to the panhandle of Florida. Just similar. It's pretty amazing to what Alberto did. So it's not definite yet, but it bears watching, and we'll have to keep a very close watch on it. Early next week, if the European does pick up on it and the GFS is still there, it's more than likely going to develop. 83 in Jacksonville, 71 in Orlando. That's cooled down because of that heavy rainfall inland. 80 degrees now in Miami. And around our area, temperatures all pretty much into the low to mid 80s near the coast. 82 in Cortez, 85 in Venice, 84 in Inglewood. And where it's not raining, or it's a little bit further away from that sea breeze, 89 in Punta Gorda. Well, here's the beach and boating forecast. For tomorrow, scattered showers are possible. Southeast winds turn to the southwest. The extended forecast shapes up like this. 40% chance for showers and a few thunderstorms, especially in the morning along the coast. A nice weekend ahead. Lots of sunshine, a few clouds, a 20% chance for rain. And then we'll be watching the tropics closely next week. And it looks like Wednesday and Thursday could be wet. Not definite yet, but it could be wet. We'll have much more a little bit later. Alan, back to you.
Did you know that a dirty CPAP system can make you sick? If you knew what could be growing in your mask and hose, it would keep you up at night. Now SoClean.com has released the world's first and only automated hands-free CPAP cleaner and sanitizer. With its patented design, SoClean is fast, effective, and hands-free, killing 99.9% of all CPAP germs. Try SoClean now through this special TV offer free for 30 days. Just call 800-604-0398.
My health has improved. It's simple to use, and I'm not worried about infections.
SoClean works on all CPAP machines and popular masks, destroying CPAP bacteria, viruses, and germs without the daily hassle of washing your system by hand. Just place your mask in, close the lid, and in just minutes, voila! Sanitized and ready to use. Try SoClean risk-free for 30 days. This is a limited time offer. Call now, 800-604-0398. Or visit SoClean.com today.
My credit score was not that great.
I didn't understand what went into my credit score.
It was overwhelming.
Do you want to attain better credit health but don't know where to start? Credit Sesame can help by providing you a free credit score.
I love the app. It's so easy to use. It's like having your own financial coach.
Credit Sesame broke my credit score down into things that I understood, and it made me think, I can do this.
And the awesome thing about Credit Sesame, it's free.
It's 100% free.
You don't need to go it alone. Get started today at creditsesame.com.
All hands on deck. What's up? I want to point out 3 tips for using the home computer more safely. Point away.
First, stop. Make sure your software is up to date and that you've password protected your computer's login and Wi-Fi connection.
Next, think before visiting a site, opening attachments, or clicking on links.
Then connect, knowing you're helping make the web safer for you
and for everyone. Make Stop, Think, Connect part of your daily online routine.
ABC7, your Suncoast News. We're here for you. Watch ABC7 wherever you are, on our live stream, on mysuncoast.com, on the ABC7 My Suncoast app, powered by the Eye Associates, providing sight for life, featuring traffic maps and live radar, dining with recipes, and My Suncoast Restaurant Guide. Visit mysuncoast.com. Click on the Apps tab to download the ABC7 My Suncoast app for Apple and Android.
In life after the military, it's our duty as veterans to have each other's back. I'm retired Colonel Greg Gatson, and it's my mission to help you get the benefits and services you've earned. If you need to file a VA claim, remember these important steps. Submit an online claim through ebenefits.va.gov. Work with an accredited Veteran Service Organization, or VSO. And if you need to attend a VA claim exam, please go. Visit this website to learn what to expect.
Each day, researchers make discoveries that bring us closer to the moment when all cancer patients can become survivors. Their progress is made possible with the help of clinical trials. Clinical trials are the brightest torch researchers have to light their way towards better treatments. And if you've been diagnosed with cancer, they may be your brightest ray of hope. Speak with your doctor and visit standuptocancer.org/clinical trials to learn more. Together, we can stand up for all of us.
You're watching ABC7 News at 7:30.
Welcome back, everyone. The U.S. Supreme Court has struck down a federal law banning sports betting, but will you be able to do it in Florida? Joining us for more, Jaquan Cathy of the Dapper Sports Desk. Frank Alcock is a political science professor at New College, and joining us by Skype from Tampa is Tyler Bradley of Sports Talk Florida. So, Jaquan, first, can you describe right now, if you want to place a sports bet online, how would you do it?
So the site I use is Bovada, bovada.lv. I use Bovada because it's the highest rated of all the online casinos. So you log into Bovada, you set up an account, you enter your bank information, which I know which is kind of be scary, especially, you know, it's not completely legal, but you can, it's a casino as well, so you can do poker on there, blackjack, other games, but they just have sports gambling. So you will enter your credit card information, and they will have that on file, so that can be scary. But for me, I trust my bank institutions for anything that can be flawed. When you make the transaction will go through another country. The last transaction I did, it went through Turkey, for example. So my money went through Turkey. Bovada has the server in Turkey, so they have the money there. I'll place the wager, and then if I win, I will get the money via a check in 2 to 3 or 4 weeks, and if I lose, then I lose my money.
Frank, it almost sounds like this is a similar type of discussion that we had with legalizing marijuana, that if a state or the federal government legalizes it, you could tax it and fill up the federal or state coffers. If you legalize sports gambling, it would be a boon to the Florida Treasury.
Yes, there's some parallels, certainly. I think with the gaming and gambling, you can get the experience without being physically present. And so this is going to open up more domestic servers that are doing these things online, probably more online sites that'll cater now to this. However, there's a whole sports gaming experience where in this country, if you want to do that, you have to go to Vegas and nowhere else. And so this opens the door up to expanding the portfolio of gambling experiences or forms of gambling experiences in Florida. And who is going to get that? Is that going to be simply limited to the Seminole tribe, or can we do that anywhere? Or maybe just in pari-mutuels? That's going to be determined by the legislature.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Amendment 3, which is going to be on the ballot, is a mechanism which some would suggest would benefit the Seminoles and the other Indian tribes in Florida.
Yes, and Amendment 3, the petitions have been collected for a while, and so that was not designed with a view towards this new sports gaming opportunity that's coming up. But what Amendment 3 would do if it were to pass, it would require Florida citizens to approve via a constitutional ballot amendment any expansion of gambling in Florida. However, that amendment specifies a citizens' initiative as the vehicle for doing that, which means that the legislature could no longer put something on the ballot for the citizens of Florida. It would require actually citizens themselves to spend millions of dollars to actually put another ballot. And again, it would make it very, very difficult to expand gambling in this country.
Tyler, what does your listeners tell you about this? I mean, if you listen to any sports talk show in our area, there is a lot of discussion about odds of the NFL game coming up this week, or the NHL game, or so forth. Do you get a sense that there is a real appetite for legalized sports gambling in our area?
Oh, without a doubt, there's no question. Callers all the time are calling up. As soon as the federal court came down with the ruling, we had plenty of callers that day even that were real jacked up about it. They were so excited, and they really can't wait to get it going.
We're talking about that some of the you'll be able to bet on, narrowing it down to what a pitcher is going to throw, or what kind of play is going to be called. Are people concerned that heads or tails, in terms of starting a game? Are people concerned that this is going to have an impact on what happens on the field or the court?
I very well think so myself, yes. The one thing that we have to be concerned about now is what kind of rules are going to be in place to keep games from being thrown or games from being scripted, and that would really favor certain people's pockets or certain teams. That's one thing that I'm definitely interested to see, what kind of rules are going to be in place.
And what are the pro sports teams saying about this, whether you're talking about the NFL, the Major League Baseball, or the NBA, or hockey?
Well, the day that the ruling came down, Mark Cuban came out, and he, the owner of the Dallas Mavericks, and he was very adamant that this just doubled our profit, this just doubled our worth. And I know owners and everyone in the front offices alike are all very excited that the ruling is what it is.
And Jaquan, there was a story that was in the Tampa Bay Times that recently said that since the emergence of the internet, the gaming industry has been at war with the illegal sports betting industry. What does that mean?
For me, it means like, so you have the casinos, you have the online casinos, you have Vegas, and then you have bookies, people who have their own money or have investors, and they do their own on gambling. I know a few. I don't go through them particularly just because I don't trust them, but that can get where you can get extremely murky, where like you owe me money or where's my money type deal, when you're not going through an institution even though it's illegal.
And Frank, these are the kinds of things that raise a lot of concerns.
Yeah, they're economic concepts here, and so there's always going to be an amazing amount of demand for gaming and gambling. It's been there for as long as we've existed, I think, as human beings. Exclusivity in terms of giving people those experiences generates huge profits. And so prior to the internet, it was simply bookies, which were illegal. That would be the vehicle for gaming. Since the advent of the internet and actually putting sites outside of this country, even though it's illegal, consumers, people that are interested, had that option. And so they're at war because the bookies would rather make them, keep that exclusivity, but they don't have it anymore. Now it's going to be relaxed even more.
We're going to go to final thoughts right now, but my first question to you, Frank, is what do you believe is the appetite of the Florida legislature right now to take advantage of the Supreme Court ruling, or are they just going to leave it up to voters?
I think it's mixed. I think the legislature would like to do something, but there's not a consensus about what to do. And there are many different interest groups involved in the gaming industry here. It's not just a few players. There are a lot of different players that have their own interests that they're trying to advance.
And Tyler, if there's one thing that you want your listeners and our viewers to know about what is happening right now and what is at stake, what would that be?
If you're a gambling fan, be excited. This is going to change the way that sports is played and ultimately viewed for the near future and moving forward. And if you're a gambler and you enjoy sports, as many people do, it's definitely something to be excited about.
Tyler, do you look forward to a day if this gets, the law keeps up with what's going on here, that you're not going to have to place your bets overseas and risk security issues in terms of sending your money overseas through whatever kind of servers and getting checks back from other countries and so forth?
Well, definitely. I think that they'll institute something that it won't take 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. If the state of Florida passes something like that, I think they will, or like with Amendment 3, that gets passed, leave it up to the casinos in place now. I think that'll be much better. They're trusted as we are now. I'm extremely excited about the future of sports gambling. Anybody who has a stake in live sports rights should be excited about this.
Frank, we did discuss this a little bit, but there are folks out there and organizations who are concerned about addiction and gambling addiction, and I would imagine that they are going to mount a considerable campaign to make sure that this does not go full bore in Florida.
Those voices will step up, I think, in the coming years. And so, as I said before, I mean, case in point, for those that are addicted or that have serious interests, their vehicles, the opportunities are already there. But the potential for this now to be everywhere and so easily accessible, yes, there could be an uptake in terms of the number of people that get exposed to gambling and the number of addictions that are out there. And there are people that are going to try to fight back against that.
All right, thank you all. Thanks to Jaquan Cathy of the Dapper Sports Desk, Frank Alcock, a political science professor at New College, and joining us by Skype from Tampa is Tyler Bradley of Sports Talk Florida. When we return, we'll be joined by USF Sarasota Manatee economics instructor Michael Snipes, so stay with us.
This is an important message for anyone with Medicare. You may be eligible for an all-in-one Medicare plan that combines hospital, medical, and prescription drug coverage together with extra benefits that may include dental, vision, hearing aids, and much more. Some of these plans have a $0 monthly premium regardless of your income. That's right. For one low plan premium, or in some cases a $0 premium, you may be able to get coverage for your hospital visits, doctor appointments, prescription drugs, routine dental care, eyeglasses and contact lenses, hearing aids, and possibly more. Today may be the first time you've heard about this type of Medicare plan. The advisors at the Medicare.com helpline are licensed insurance agents who will explain more when you call. Call now to see if you qualify. Call the number on your screen now. Call now to see if you qualify for these benefits. You worked hard for your Medicare. Now is the time for your Medicare to work hard for you. Not affiliated with or acting on behalf of any government agency or program.
Did you know you could get life insurance for less than 32 cents a day? With guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TruStage, you can get up to $25,000 in protection with a single phone call, and you cannot be turned down for any reason. Even if you have health problems or are living on a fixed income, guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance policies could work for you with prices starting at less than 32 cents a day. That's as low as $9.40 a month. TruStage can help free your family from immediate financial stress when you're gone.
Utility bills, mortgages, car payments, those are a lot of things that can add up pretty fast.
My mom didn't have life insurance and the cost all fell on me. And that's expensive. We're still paying for that.
Yeah, we're still paying for that.
Call 1-800-218-4991 now. In one phone call, you can help prepare your family with protection amounts up to $25,000. There are no medical tests or health questions. And remember, you cannot be turned down for any reason. In fact, TruStage policies are already protecting over 18 million Americans. And rates are designed to be affordable, starting at less than 32 cents a day. That's as low as $9.40 a month. Plus, your price will never increase and your benefit will never decrease.
When I leave, everything will be taken care of for them.
Call 1-800-218-4991 now for a free, no-obligation quote. TruStage offers plans to fit your budget with prices starting at less than 32 cents a day. Help protect your family from immediate financial burdens after you're gone with guaranteed acceptance whole life insurance through TruStage. Call 1-800-218-4991 now.
Welcome back. Well, if you know me, you know my love for baseball. But did you know the famous Babe Ruth trade from the Red Sox to the Yankees can be translated into economic terms? Here to explain is USF Sarasota Manatee economics instructor Michael Snipes. Michael.
Yeah, so you can make an argument that Babe Ruth, one of the best players of all time, but a lot of people don't necessarily know that he started off as a pitcher. And you can make an argument that he was one of the best pitchers of all time, certainly best pitchers of his generation. You could also make an argument that he was one of the best batters of all time, maybe certainly of his generation. So the problem then becomes, how do you use him? Because you can't play every position. So should we use him as a pitcher or should we use him as a hitter? So what we want to do is we want to compare him with every other pitcher that is on their team with every other batter that's on the team. Right? And so he's going to be better than every pitcher that's on the team, so we want to place him a little bit higher. And he's also going to be better than every batter on the team, so we want to place him above every other batter on the team. But what we want to do is we want to kind of make a relative comparison. So it's true that he's better than every pitcher and he's better than every hitter, but he's that much better than every other hitter on the team. So what we say is we say that he had a comparative advantage in hitting. So because he was relatively better than everybody else in hitting, he should focus on hitting relative to pitching, even though he was a good pitcher. So what does that mean for trade? So we can look at a couple different countries, and I picked Guatemala and the United States just because we're relatively close in the levels of trade that we have. Imports are usually pretty close to exports. And so it's true that the United States and Guatemala both produce textiles and agricultural goods, right? The question then becomes, well, just because both countries can produce both of these goods, both of these countries still trade in these goods. So if we both can produce them, why do we still trade with them? And it has to do with what we were doing over here. We want to kind of make these comparisons. So the U.S. can produce more textiles than Guatemala, but it can't produce that much more than Guatemala. And it's also true that the United States can produce agricultural goods, but again, we want to make a comparison that the United States is relatively better at producing agricultural goods, or is just that much better at producing agricultural goods than it is textiles when we look at trade between the United States and Guatemala. So in the same way that Babe Ruth was both the best pitcher and the best batter, the United States has the ability to produce more textiles and more agricultural goods. So how do we use Babe Ruth? Well, he's that much better than every other hitter. How do we know what we should produce and what we should trade for? Well, the United States is just that much better at producing textiles, so that's going to determine kind of where we trade.
We have about a minute left here. Can you relate what you're talking about to the current situation involving putting tariffs on both Canada, Mexico, and Europe as opposed to our trade deficit with China?
Sure, sure. I think the best way to think about that is what that's going to do is a lot of the time what drives why we're good at producing things, it comes back to price. So if the United States exports a lot of agricultural goods, that means that we're able to produce them a little bit more cheaply relative to Guatemala. What that then means is that takes away some of our comparative advantage. So in some sense, you could think of that as kind of hindering Babe Ruth's hitting ability, right? Maybe having him hit every other game, or maybe having him pitch every other game. And so similarly, what that would do is it makes American goods more expensive. That erodes at our comparative advantage in the same way that making Babe Ruth a worse hitter.
Okay, Michael, thank you very much. Before we go, we want to share with you what some of you had to say about last night's show on the public housing in Newtown, the first public housing in Sarasota built specifically for the African American community, built in 1942. Now, instead of repairing and replacing the apartments, the state wants to designate it a historic landmark. Is it a pretext to stop the city from using federal funds to build a new modern housing project? We went to Facebook for your thoughts, and Peggy says it's no landmark. This Mr. Parsons seems to want to keep people down and show his lack of respect for fellow humans. He should live in these apartments. Keep on top of this issue. Virginia says, I work on the historical preservation report for future development going on here. The complex was an early public housing project designed by an important Sarasota School of Architecture architect. This is why the state required a report intended to preserve visual context, historical information, and architectural details, not to preserve the buildings. And Tyler says, finally, no public housing. Okay, Tyler. If you'd like to join the conversation on tonight's topic, just visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/mysuncoast.com.abc7. And FYI, you can watch past discussions on demand. They're available on Apple TV, Amazon Fire, and Roku. And for the latest on local breaking news, don't forget to download the updated version of our app. If your current app doesn't work, it's expired, just go to the App Store and re-download it by searching for WWSB or My Suncoast. We want to thank Michael Snipes for joining us tonight. Michael joins us every Thursday to discuss the wild world of economics. Plus, when we return, we'll have your primetime headlines. Stay with us.
Now, your ABC7 First Alert Weather Forecast with Chief Meteorologist Bob Harrigan.
Well, here's a look at the Lakewood Ranch webcam showing a nice afternoon today. Just a few fair weather cumulus clouds building in overhead. And late in the photo there, you can see, or the imagery, there's some storms building off in the distance, inland storms mainly, and that's what we're seeing right now. Although we have some well offshore too, that's associated with a weak area of low pressure that's out there. It's going to stick around through Friday, so we'll keep a 40% chance for some scattered showers, even a few thunderstorms in the mix right through the day on Friday. And this is approaching from the west to the east, although still holding together pretty well. It's about 50 miles offshore now and continues to head off to the northeast. The bigger storms, as I mentioned, inland now, all the way from Orlando. Sea breeze collision taking place there with some storms firing up into, look at that, in Orange County, as well as into parts of southeastern Polk County. And then right there near Wauchula, a big storm producing a lot of rainfall in just a short period of time. In fact, rainfall rates up in 2.5 to 3 inches an hour, and it's not moving much, so that's going to be causing some ponding of the water and the roadways there. And as far as the Titan radar goes down south, again near Arcadia, just to the east there of Arcadia, some heavy weather there too, blowing up. So that's most of where the action is now, with the exception of the storms offshore, about 50 miles. If you have any evening plans, a drive anywhere around town should be okay in Manatee and Sarasota counties. Different story though, overnight. as we expect some of that rain to move on shore. This model not handling it all that well, but I do expect to see some storms around the coast at sunrise and then lingering scattered about west central Florida right through the midday. And then by, let's say, 3, 4 o'clock, most of the action again pushing off to the east coast, away from the coast like we're seeing today. But that low's still there, but it's weakening as high pressure is going to build in just in time for the weekend. The weekend looks to be really quiet. We'll see a few isolated storms developing along the sea breeze front, but I don't think we'll see a widespread rain event at this point. You can see that both those sea breezes kind of converging in the central portion of the state on Saturday afternoon. We'll still have a little bit of a westerly component, so the beaches and waterways should be okay throughout much of the day on Saturday and even on Sunday. Well, the GOES IR satellite imagery continues to show the high pressure down just over the southern tip of Florida there. We have that trough persistent into the Gulf of Mexico, and we're kind of sandwiched in between those two. That means that west persistent wind will continue on Friday. Well, there's a lot of action going on down in the western Caribbean right now. Some big storms firing off every once in a while. This line of low pressure continues to hang out there. This is a favorite area for development during the early part of hurricane season, and one model in particular, actually 2 models in particular, are showing a system emerging out of there, but not this one. The Euro is our friend right now, not showing any kind of a tropical system coming up from the Caribbean. A lot of action out in the Pacific, but a little trough of low pressure it's suggesting that develops on Thursday and Friday, with most of the rain well west. We'll see which one is right, but right now I'm hoping it's the European. Temperatures right now, 83 in Sarasota, 71. It's cooled in Orlando, where some big storms have been producing some very heavy rainfall this afternoon. 80 degrees in Miami and 86 at Mayaca City there, 84 in Venice. The Gulf water temperature is starting to warm up. It's one thing to note too, is the water temperature in the Gulf is a little bit warmer than it was a couple of weeks ago when we saw Alberto go on by. The 7-day forecast then, 40% chance for scattered showers and storms on Friday. A little less action going on Saturday and Sunday. High temperatures will be close to seasonal averages into the upper 80s, even some low 90s. And then we'll be watching the tropics Wednesday and Thursday of next week to see indeed if something does pop up. Adam will be back with PH right after this. Stick around.
If you think it's hot outside, just wait until you see even hotter savings inside. Only at Rugs As Art Hot Summer Savings Sale event will you find the lowest prices on a vast selection of stunning rugs, furniture accents, and accessories. This special event only happens once a year, so hurry in before the best selections are gone. The Hot Summer Savings event ends soon, so don't miss out on the best prices ever. Rugs As Art, Sarasota's only area rug superstore.
My credit score was not that great.
I didn't understand what went into my credit score. It was overwhelming.
Do you want to attain better credit health but don't know where to start? Credit Sesame can help by providing you a free credit score.
I love the app. It's so easy to use. It's like having your own financial coach. Credit Sesame broke my credit score down into things that I understood, and it made me think, I can do this.
And the awesome thing about Credit Sesame, it's free.
It's 100% free. You don't need to go it alone. Get started today at creditsesame.com.
I used to dread getting up and going to work.
I was done with the corporate grind.
I was tired of being a starving artist.
And I started looking around for a business that I believed in, and I kind of wanted to do something a little more green.
My score mentor helped me take the first step.
He helped me create a business plan and helped me implement it.
They've really taught me how to think big.
Score helped me to make the unimaginable possible, all for free. I'm here because of Score.
I'm here because of Score.
Get your free business mentor at score.org.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. And as soon as I start to make my breakfast, Hamilton is right there. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. I mean, look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Checking in on primetime headlines, President Trump meets with Japanese Prime Minister Abe ahead of next week's North Korea summit. Abe requested that visit to occur before the North Korea summit, his 7th with President Trump. ABC's Serena Marshall has more from Washington.
With the historic summit between President Trump and North Korea's Kim Jong-un just days away,
I think I'm very well prepared.
Mr. Trump sitting next to the Japanese Prime Minister, confident he's ready to go.
I don't think I have to prepare very much. It's about attitude. It's about willingness to get things done. But I think I've been preparing for the summit for a long time.
The summit was only officially back on last Friday, but this meeting with Japan comes days before both leaders attend the G7 economic summit. Today, focused heavily on North Korea. Japan's concerned they could get left behind in any North Korea deal after Secretary Mike Pompeo said this during his April confirmation hearing.
The purpose of the meeting is to address this nuclear threat to the United States.
That means the U.S. could strike a deal that would eliminate long-range missiles that would strike the U.S., while allowing the regime to keep the short and medium-range ones that threaten Japan. Today, the president reiterated the U.S. will accept nothing less than denuclearization, even if he didn't define what that means to America.
They have to denuke. If they don't denuclearize, that will not be acceptable.
And at a press conference, a hint as to how to judge the upcoming summit.
And if you hear me saying we're going to use maximum pressure, you'll know the negotiation did not do well.
The president added that if it goes well, he could invite Kim Jong-un to the United States. But even still, there was a caveat, saying the meeting is always subject to change. One other issue Japanese Prime Minister Abe pushed Mr. Trump on, the release of Japanese citizens held by North Korea. Serena Marshall, ABC News, Washington.
That's all the time we have for this evening. I'm Adam Cellini. Thanks for joining us tonight, and have yourself a great night.